Yes,
sir.
right, in that order. Yes.
So can I start?
Yes, Miraculin, you may.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. So good afternoon, everyone. So, friends, today I'm going to introduce you all to a new writer. Maybe some of you might know him, but the reason why I chose this particular writer by name Patrick Hamilton, despite the fact that he is an English novelist and playwright, and the fact that even though I have been into literature for the past 4.5 years, he was a new writer to me. I just came across this particular writer and I was a bit of inspired by him. I just went through the crux of his work and I really liked it. And he's a very new writer. I haven't heard about him before. So this writer, whom I'm going to talk about today, is Patrick Hamilton. He is an English novelist and a playwright. He was born Anthony Walter Patrick Hamilton. He lived between the years 1904 to 1962. And this point is very important that his works were ignored for many years and was recently revived. I think this point is an inspiration for, be it whichever new writer that you come across, if his or her work has been ignored for many years and has been recently revived, I think it is a great inspiration to us, the junior writers. I shouldn't say juniors, we are beginning to write, right? We are beginning to write, and we are beginning to publish our works. So even since we are beginners, even our works might be condemned even by our own family members at times in the beginning. For example, when I was, I did my first essay on the topic scars. For I contributed that essay to Karen's anthology under the topic scars, and I took the help of my sister for typing. After I just wrote it down, I took a week or so. I wrote it down, and I took my sister's help for typing. And you know what my sister said? Instead of, she did appreciate me, no doubt. But you know what she said? Why should you give these many details? I said, hey, this is not details. This is my experience. My experience, because she's in the science field. She couldn't feel it. She only thought these were all unnecessary details. But to me, these were not unnecessary, but it was my experience. So it happens, right? Because to her, I'm not a Wordsworth or a Shakespeare. To her, I'm just a miracle. So in the beginning, maybe even our works may be ignored and condemned by our own family members, but that doesn't mean we need to lose our originality. Just like how Patrick Hamilton's works and so many other authors' works were ignored for many years and were recently revived, even our works, though it may be ignored at times, but as time goes by, if we keep by our originality and keep relentlessly working hard on writing, I think we will be able to make footprints in the sands of time, and our voices would be heard to the readers. So coming to Patrick Hamilton, next slide, Bhuvneshwari. Yeah. Coming to Patrick Hamilton's work, okay, something which inspired me to talk about this writer is the way he throws light on the ridiculousness and things which are unreasonable in the lives of people. He mainly focuses on three things, and he beautifully uses black comedy as a platform to, to bring out these three things. The first one is ridiculousness. So, when you start reading any of his plays, preferably the play which the crux which I went through the crux of one of his plays. I did not read the entire play, just went through what the play was all about. So the first thing that I was able to feel, and which the speciality of his work is the ridiculousness. First, you think the work is filled with ridiculousness. He's employed ridiculousness through through adding funny incidents and so on. Secondly, you would feel that things might be unreasonable. You might wonder, why is it happening? It looks so fun. Sometimes, when you look at funny things, you will think, oh, is that person a crack? Why is this happening without a reason, right? So you might think it is unreasonable. And thirdly, we might think, right, that you will have tears in your eyes because it will have a tragic undertone. So ridiculousness, employment of ridiculousness, focusing on things which are unreasonable in people's lives. And lastly, very most importantly, his works always had a tragic undertone. Okay, now this I would like to connect it to one of the plays which I didn't read the entire play, as I told you already. I just went through the crux of the play, and it really upset me. Maybe in the beginning I was so happy. I felt that this play might be a very play that's filled with all funny things and hilarious things, and filled with a lot of unreasonable things and so on. But towards the end, okay, I couldn't sleep for 3 nights, pondering upon the tragic tone which this play had. So come now, let us see about this play. Okay, it is titled Gaslight. It was written by Patrick Hamilton in the year 1938. He's also written many other plays such as Monday Morning, The Slaves of Solitude, Two Pens Colored, and so on. And today I will be talking to you about his play Gaslight, a play that inspired me so much. And also, and I will also tell you what really made me emotional here. Okay, the incident that really made me emotional here. So this play was written and published in the year 1938. So here, this story is the story of a husband and wife. Okay, the husband's name is Jack Manningham, and his wife's name is Bella. Now, what happens is Manningham, he tries to, he finds out, he somehow comes to know that, in the upper space of their apartment, okay, there is a treasure, there is a hidden treasure. Now, Manningham wants to find out that treasure, but he does not want his wife to know that he is going to seek for a treasure. Okay, it can be any treasure, but he's going to seek for a treasure. Now what he does is, see the way, this is what that brought tears to my eyes. uh, he is constantly switching the lights on and off, switching it on and switching it off, switching it on and switching it off. And you might know, right, if someone is going to do that constantly, your eyes would blink and sometimes you would get headache, right? I get it often, so we get headache. So why does he do this? Okay, he wants his wife to feel abnormal. He wants his wife to feel that she is going mad. How will he make her feel that? He will constantly switch on and switch off the lights, constantly without his wife's knowledge, without Bella's knowledge. And when Bella asks him, Manningham, what's happening around me? He would pretend as if things are normal, in his atmosphere, and he would make her believe that she is going mad. And why does he want to do this? Okay, because he wants to find the treasure and possess it all by himself without the knowledge of his wife. So this is what that brought in a question in my mind, and that is why I came here to speak about this today. It needs a bit of a discussion, because see here, the way a woman, okay, in the beginning, the story seems to be very ridiculous, okay, as to how, the husband, turns off the light and, turns it on and turns it off. So we might think he's, just playing truant with his wife. So he's such a lovable husband, a very playful husband. And sometimes we might also think, how unreasonable, why is this man doing this, but this tragic undertone, okay, making a wife feel mad, making her feel abnormal just to go and find the treasure. So here we, when we did Doll's House, right, we spoke about how women were objectified. But something which really made me emotionally affected me is because here a woman is not even treated, given the value that a man could give to a treasure, which is just an object. Treasures are just an object. Why I tell that? Because if you lose your money, if you lose your wealth and your treasure, you can earn it anytime. Okay. For example, if I lose 100 rupees today without my knowledge and my parents scold me for that, I need not have to go and rob without my parents' knowledge. But what I can do, I can study well, I can get good marks, I can, get into a better job, and I can earn and give to my parents, 10 times than what I lost. But here you see how this man, Jack Manningham, makes his wife, he really gives her a psychological domestic torture. We have heard about so many tortures, but this is how the women, suffered those days. And this story is particularly in the Victorian setting. So the author's greatly influenced by the Victorian times. And though the characters might be fictional, but the incidents are pure, like, these were incidents that women had gone through those times. So this is, something that questioned me, how could a woman be made, be subjected to such tortures even without her knowledge? Can Bella do can any woman, do the same thing to her husband? Just because she is a woman, the husband gets all the rights to torture her. And and I appreciate this particular author, Patrick Hamilton, for having brought to light um the suffering that a woman had gone through, especially psychologically, how a woman could go through psychological domestic abuse. Here, the husband did not beat her, the husband did not abuse her physically, but he's abusing her psychologically, even without her knowledge. So, this is something very intelligent about Patrick Hamilton, to bring things out in such a manner, so that it makes us aware of what's going around in the world, both anciently and in the contemporary times. So due to this, I believe that his work, Patrick Hamilton's work, is worth to be remembered. Thank you.
Thank you,
Sir.
Miracle. That was a wonderful review on a play that most of us haven't heard. So it's a wonderfully new work for us. Patrick Hamilton also again. And he was ignored for many years and recently revived, and the way you beautifully connected it with how we can also be, in such a like manner. If we relentlessly work hard, then we can also make footprints in the sands of time. And when your sister or somebody asked you why so many details, and you beautifully told her, or you said, this was my experience. This detailing is very important for literature students especially. And I remember, I think it was Henry James who gave us this beautiful term, ingrained factuality, right, of a text. Why do we have this ingrained factuality? To give an air of reality to a particular text. And so you are perfectly justified in that. Virginia Woolf also talks about this concept of reality, the nuances that we have in these minute details. Good, very good. And
thank you, sir.
Yes, it is a very important contribution to literature that has been silent. I'm so happy that you have also brought it to light once again for us. Thank you, Miracle. We'll move on to the next person.
Sir, can I share the screen?
Yes,
sir?
Asha, you may. Yeah. And I should also appreciate your class representative, Bhuneshwari. She's been very helpful to all of you in class, doing the sharing, the PPT, right? A very meticulous, a very devoted class representative you guys have got. On all your behalf, I also thank
you,
Bhuneshwari. Yes, welcome.
Pleasure,
yeah,
sir.
Yeah.
So, shall I start?
You may, Asha. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I'll be talking about the unheard voices. So, initially I selected one only, but then I felt like I shouldn't go with that. So, I had one more, but I didn't want to leave that person out. So, I'll be talking about two people, but I'll be strictly adhering to the time constraints. I'll just give a brief introduction about them. So the first person, I think every Keralite will know this person. His name is Joseph Annanguti Jose. So every person till now have talked about people entirely from the literary area, but I thought about talking about a person who is not only appealing to the literature students, but to all all areas or all fields and all ages. So this is someone who is not a pakka writer as such. He is an amateur. He is an author, an actor, a blogger, a social influencer, and a radio personality of Radio Mirchi. So he is of the age 33 and he belongs to Kerala, and he did his studies in Bangalore and Cochin. So basically, he is a radio jockey, and he wrote two books, namely The Buried Thoughts and Devathinte Charinmar. And Buried Thoughts, he wrote it in English, and Devendra Charaman, he wrote it in Malayalam. And talking about this person, he is someone who has this spirit in him that he can spread to everyone. He is someone who can understand the pulse of the youngsters, and he's been a great influence on the younger generations. And at the same times, he won't offend the older generation or be in any kind like his words won't attack on anybody. So that's one specialty that I've seen in him. Before writing these books, he was actually someone who did a regular desk job, and afterwards he uploaded a video on Facebook on 27th of Feb 2015 named "I Am the Change." Actually, he did it simply because he wanted to voice out his opinions, but it received many appreciation from many people, and finally people started to accept his views and people started to follow his views, and that's how he became the so-called motivational speaker, though he doesn't like people calling him so, because he is of the opinion that he is someone who is very ordinary and he is just telling his views. So he takes seminars and talks, motivational talks, and he writes blogs. He has this own radio area where he talks about his own thoughts. So his book, The Bari Thoughts, he wrote it in English, published in 2020. Uh, if you have heard about, if you have heard any of his talks personally or otherwise on YouTube or Insta or anywhere, you can actually see many of them in these books. This book is not an entire story or any narration as such. It's just a few snippets of his life and his experience that he's went through from childhood till now. And the whole backdrop is Kerala, and then his college in Bangalore. He has talked about the typical Christian Malayali family and the stereotypes that we face against, that every Malayali face against. And one important thing that I felt, that I really felt appreciating about him is that he talks about the women or the girls in Kerala. Even though we say that Kerala is a very much literate, we are full of literate people, we are this, we are that, and all that. But there are issues in Kerala that I have faced, many of my friends have faced. We are restricted to many things. So this one person came up, and amidst all this, he talked about issues that needed attention, and he talked about freely without having any inhibitions as such. And after his talk like this, he was called to a women's college where he talked about menstruation. So, in one of his talks and in his book as well, he talks about how being a young man, he was called to an all women's college and he talked about menstruation, hygiene, and whatnot. So, his thoughts and his views were appreciated and accepted so much that even women felt like he should talk for women, only then women will understand about themselves and other men will accept women as they should accept it. So apart from that, he also talks about his relationship with his parents, his perspective of religion. Like religion wise, he's a Christian, but he sees the way he portrays Jesus or he sees Jesus is entirely different. He says that yes, he believes in religion, yes, he believes in Christianity or whatever faith it is, but the person Jesus is more like a role model to him rather than a God. He loves him as a carpenter, is what he said in his books. So I've been to a talk where he talked, and this happened in a church. But inside the church, the first thing he was telling is that I won't be talking about Christianity. I won't be talking about Jesus as the Almighty. But I'll be talking about Jesus as a person who was a good child, who was a good friend, who was a good helper, and who guided people in the right way. And eventually, he sacrificed everything for his loved ones. So that is his perspective of religion. And again, he is not someone who's all high and mighty. He has acted in a few films, minor roles, but there he's not this perfect guy or anything. But he's someone with all the faults and follies that every normal person has. And he also calls himself as a normal person who doesn't want to be praised about or talked high about. And that's one simple thing that I really love about him. So I wanted to talk about this particular person because this generation or our generation, especially back in Kerala, we wanted someone who could voice out our opinions, who could stand by us, and at the same time not offend our older generation. So he's at the same, like, simultaneously he's talking about how the younger generation should act, but also he's talking about how we should be respectful to our parents and or to women or our older generation, things like that. So that's what I want to talk about this person. The next is Kezia Susan James. She is my best friend. So firstly, I thought of talking about her, but then I was like, I'll go one step further, and I chose Joseph Ananguti Jose. So about her, she's of our age. She did her BA English in Catholic College, Pathanamthitta, and she has done her schooling all around the world, and she is someone who sings well. She's a motivational speaker. She's a songwriter. She's a tutor, and currently she's working as an IELTS tutor. And one of her book, she has written only one book, that is The Gift of Brokenness. And in it, she has wrote about youngsters having issues, and she wants to give hope and support for them when they are at the verge of breaking up. So when I talked about this book to her, the thing that she told is not only this book gives energy or hope to others, but this book also helped her to get over her own inhibitions, her own scars, her own wounds, and all. So this book is a very small book, and it contains only a few things that she wrote here and there. And she's currently working on a bigger project. So this book was like a trailer for what she wants to talk to people. And she has a lot of blogs where she posts her thoughts and all. And this book is like giving a pat on the back to those youngsters who wants to give up what they're doing. So that's what I wanted to talk. First is a man and the second is a woman. They are talking about totally different things, but they are relatable to each and every person of every age, of every field, irrespective of if they're studying literature or if they're studying science. So I wanted to present two people whose books can be read by everyone, not
Thank
only
you,
lay
Asha.
people.
That was a
That's it.
wonderful
Thank you, sir.
introduction for us. So many beautiful young voices we've got. Joseph Annamkuti Jose, most of us, even I haven't heard of him. And Kezia Susan Thomas, James, Kezia Susan, right in front of us in our own backyard. We've got such wonderful voices waiting to be heard. I am so happy that Arsha Mary Alex brought out such wonderful unheard voices, buried thoughts, or Devatinde Charanmar, those people who helped him in his life. And he believed in something, he shared it. I repeat, he believed in something, he shared it, and his values, his beliefs impacted others, and they started having him as a role model. This is exactly what you and I do, isn't it? You believe in something, you share it. It could be on a video platform, it could be on WhatsApp, it could be on Facebook, it could be on Instagram. You believe in something, you have a conviction on something, that there are atrocities against women in society or against transgenders. So you believe in something, you share it, and definitely you will be the change that you want to see. Like, he has beautifully come out with I am the change. And Kezia also. I am so happy that some of them are even bloggers, right? In your class also, I think some of you are bloggers, but others also you can express yourself. For her, this writing helped her overcome her own inhibitions, as you rightly said. Right? Good, very good. We have got Patrick Hamilton today, an unheard voice, and Joseph Ankuti and Kezia Susan James. Good, right? Waiting for the next person to give us some new voices also. Adeline is there. Adeline Sellers.
Yes, sir. Can you
Yes,
hear
Adeline,
me?
you are clear.
Shall I
Yes, you
present my
may. Yeah.
screen? One sec. Good morning.
Yes,
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah.
So, good morning to everyone. I was confused about who exactly to pick because there are a lot of people, a lot of upcoming authors. But in the past 1 year, I've been spending a lot of time on my phone and on Instagram. And I've come across so many authors, poets experimenting with new forms of literature. And that's when I wanted to talk about Ashwath Chelian. He's actually 24 years old. He's not much older than us. And he's a doctor. He's studying his MBBS. And this started out as a passion, as an outlet. He used Instagram as an outlet for his passion towards writing. And that's how he started the account Broken Ballads. And now he has ended up with more than 47,000 followers. And his stories are the reason I chose his stories is because they're simple, they're not complicated. And I feel that delivering something that is touching and something that's moving and that's something that causes someone to feel something is difficult with using simple words. Like if you ask me to explain something in a shorter version, I won't be able to do it. But Ashwath Chelian was able to deliver stories, different perspectives, different themes, and he was able to make me stick to my screen and go through all his stories with just simple sentences, with simple story structures. And that is why I wanted to talk about Ashwath Chelian. His Instagram account is Broken Ballads. An example of one of his latest publications, not publications, one of his latest posts is That Girl from School. So we'll just go through that so you have an idea of what kind of stories he writes. There's this girl in school. I can tell you much about her because she sits away from the rest of us and is quiet too. So if you notice that this is the same structure he follows in all of his stories. It's linear, it has pauses. We're supposed to call this caesura in our literary term, but for anyone who is not even aware of the literary features of it, he himself might not be aware about the literary features that he's using, but it connects with the reader and the reader pauses, and that pause, I believe, helps them to understand or visualize what exactly he's saying, like helps them to get into the shoes of the narrator. So that's the first. It comes in slides, and it's only 10 slides. It's minimal. Each slide has only like 5 sentences, and that's what I like about it. It's quick and concise. So you know what I'm talking about, don't you? A kind of girl, always combing her hair and living in her own world. The others avoid her as though they don't see her, and I do the same. That is until one day I returned to class after hours. I left my geometry box and my expensive compass. I see her sitting on the last bench. Her skin is very dark and her hair cut like a boy. She looks at me and smiles. All I say back is hi. I'm searching for my geometry box. She laughs. I'll help you find it. A few minutes later, she talks from under the bench. Is this it? Yes, I smile. Thank you so much. And as she gives me the box, for a moment, our hands touch. Her skin is warm. Her nails are dark too. Thank you for finding this. My mom would have got so mad had I lost this one too. She laughs again. What does your mom do when she's angry? She yells. Sometimes she'll threaten to hit me with a belt. What does your mom do when she's angry? I ask. She keeps me in the oven. I freeze. What? She laughs louder and repeats. She keeps me in an oven and turns up the heat. I run back home and tell my parents. They say, don't worry, we'll call the police. I wait in my room and realize why her nails were so dark too. A few moments later, my parents enter. The police just spoke to the girl's mother. And I ask, what did she say? My parents take a deep breath. That girl from your school died last May. I shiver. She died in a fire accident, something to do with the voltage from an oven. I run out of my house. My parents chase me. I run back to school and enter my class. And she sits there in the last row and laughs just as hard. You better run, she says. You made mother angry. And if she catches you and burns you, it's okay. I'll save you a spot beside me. So that's it. That's all that the story says. It's captivating, it's concise, it's not your usual novella or literary feature, and that's what I admire about it. I feel like I'm able to relate to Ashwath Chelian by comparing him to Wordsworth, how uncertain and how excited Wordsworth was with his own creations when he created one of the most famous literary genres in poetry, the lyrical ballads. How he was uncertain about whether people would accept it, or whether the world was ready, or whether he was doing the right thing, following his own perceptions of what art and poetry should be. So Ashwath Chelian did the same, I believe, on his own accord. I don't think he started this account with an aim to get more followers, with an aim to reach more people. I think he started out as a catharsis, as a form of catharsis, because his earlier posts are simple phrases, simple quotes. They're not much. And yet, even with the minimal usage of words, he's able to deliver something. And I like his point of view, his perspective, the way he's able to experiment with so many different narrators. Many of his stories are from different age groups. Are The narrators are from different age groups, different genders, venturing through different themes, different emotions. And I like that he constantly keeps experimenting, and his genres are very unpredictable. He doesn't stick to one thing. I feel like he is going on a journey, on a literary journey. He is exploring it for himself, and by sharing it on Instagram, by sharing it with his followers, I feel like we are part of that journey too. There's no hidden agenda to his writing. He's not trying to do something with his writing. He's just cathartic about what he's feeling, his imagination, his creativity. And I believe that achieves the purpose of art for art's sake. So that's exactly why I chose Ashwath Chelian. And he experiments, and the fact that he is able to do that at such a young age, it's kind of inspiring. And also the fact that his genres are unexpected is, so whenever I'm reading his stories, I'm completely into it, and I'm completely captivated by it. I haven't been able to guess the ending so far. I mean, it's not much, it's not too advanced, or it's not a pro level literary feature, but that reminds me how even the simplest of sentences, even the simplest story structures, and the simplest medium, like where if you have a passion for writing, you start where you are with what you have, and you end up reaching to a lot of people. And I believe that it achieves the purpose of art. So his imagination is all over the place. Some of his stories start off seeming like they're from the romance genre, and they end up completely opposite. They end up as an exploration of death, or taboo topics about menstruation, LGBTQI community. So I feel like he reaches a lot of people through his stories. And the fact that his diction, his narration is very captivating. It's to the point. I myself have a lot of trouble being to the point, like delivering a message to the point. My whenever I'm communicating, it's too elaborate. And since he's able to do something that I'm not, I find it inspiring. And his journey started as phrases, quotes, confessions. Like I'm sure that all of us, when we want to vent out our feelings, we probably document it in journals and apps on our phones, etc. But so I believe that his account started out as that, and now it has reached more than 47,000 people. And he has written more than 400 stories in the same format, excluding the quotes and phrases that he has posted in his account. And now I only recently found out that he has published his own book, When Varun Met Meera. I've ordered it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm very excited because I'm not sure what genre it's going to be. I'm not even sure if it's going to be a novel. So this was his first post. You can see how there's minimal graphics. It's just the sake for his own catharsis. It's just for the sake of art. So that was his first post in 2018, and this was his latest post with more than 4,000 likes. The first post had like 100 likes or something. And another reason that I wanted to choose someone from Instagram was because I have been encountering a lot of authors and literary figures on Instagram. They're not professionally, I don't think they can be termed as literary figures, but that's something that I wanted to talk about, that anyone is capable of communicating and creating art and connecting with people. So I'm not sure if these are the exact names, but I've come across terms like button poetry, slam poetry, spoken poetry, haiku themed stories. They're concise, they're small, and they're catering to the social media platforms. And I feel like a lot of people are experimenting with it. And from that, they've evolved, just like Ashwath Chalian. And he's just one of the many people who have so much potential to create and connect. And that's it, sir.
Great,
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Great, Talent. It was wonderful. And Instagram storytellers, very new to me, and I hope to many of us also, the way he experiments with new forms of storytelling. And the ending of a short story, the one that you gave us, I'll save you a spot beside me. So, and the simple sentences, right? That makes us endear ourselves to his stories. And you, as you said, no, he made me stuck or glued to my screen with his simple sentences. Something that Richard Leder also tells us, the case for short words, simple sentences that help us engage with the reader better. Very good, Adlin. This was a wonderful introduction to a very amazing writer, an Instagram storyteller. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, now we'll have Agnes. Is there?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. You may present. The next two, that is Ansi, is there?
Yes,
Ansi
sir.
and Anne Maria. Ansi, right. You may present to the next class, Ansi. Right?
Okay,
yes.
sir.
Anne is also there, no? Anne also.
So she's having network issues, sir.
Right? Yes. Okay, no problem, yeah. Agnes, you may. Agnes, yeah.
Yes, sir. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. So this is Agnes Susi, and I'm going to introduce my friend. She is a poet, and her name is Julia Jasmine Evelyn. We are friends in schooling. She is from Nilgiris. She is a postgraduate in English literature, also an online educator for English literature and art. She also teaches creative writing, and her works are published in anthology. She has written more than 30 poems. And when Sir asked for a writer who was not celebrated in a mainstream literature, Julia is the one character who came into my mind. And that day itself, I chose her. And I asked her about now what is she doing. And we had a long gap after schooling. So I asked her, give me some of your poems. What have you written and what are you doing now? And she gave her works. And as soon as I saw that, I read those. And I asked her, how could you write such fascinating poems? And the thing she said is, I plunge in ecstasy every time I brew my verse lines and render it down into a paper. And she also said that I owe this blessing of mine to my undergraduate professors. And I guess her professors may be more encouraging. She is a blessed child, and from school time itself, she used to write like dramas and activities in school times. So I guess she would be a great I'd be great speaking about her. She is graduated from Providence College for Women in Kannur, and then she went to complete her masters in St. John's College, Tirunelveli. According to her, art plays a major part in her life and livelihood as well. And the poetry, according to her, is healing, soothing, attacking, mesmerizing, embracing, and transcending, triumphing the souls of the multitude through efforts and efforts. These are the words and phrases she gave. And she had a habit of writing from her childhood. And I asked her, like, when did you started writing professionally? And she said, from the age of 17. And she did not have any stable friends, and after college time only she got new friends, and her life completely changed. And that is the place where she started writing like more professionally. And to tell about her family, she is from a dysfunctional family. Like, her parents were divorced and when she was young itself, and she is having a sister who is diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And to tell about her writing, she the first poem she wrote is Faith, and it was a mature writing, but unfortunately she lost it. And professionally, the first thing she wrote is Carpe Diem. That is the first thing she wrote, like, which was published. And I asked her, what is your inspiration, like, how did you start writing, and why did you start writing poetry? Because poetry is not a easy thing to write. Not everybody can write poetry. If you can say, like, drama and things and all, anybody can write, but poetry is not a thing everybody can write. And as I asked her, she said she usually writes letters to her family members, like always. And before her family broke up, she used to write letters to her father who was in abroad. And his father wrote letters with the pretty floral patterns on them. So she loved reading them, and from there she started reading. And as soon as she started reading, like, she used to speak in her mind, she used to think lot of things. So she thought, I even she can write. And she wrote everything whatever comes in her mind. And also she said, like, when she was young, she accidentally landed up with watching a movie called Letters to God, uh, which uh, which was made out of a real life incident. It's about a cancer warrior, uh, a small boy who always writes a letter to God. And seeing that, she found very intriguing, and she started writing to God as well. And the thing she does is, she always write that whatever runs in her mind, like daily journals. And after she went to college, she started falling for poetry. And her teachers professors always take her to the land of imaginations. And she started writing. And to say about this poem, this is her poem Carpe Diem. uh, the day when she wrote this poem, she remembers it. She said, she was like, about to paint a feather, picture of a feather. She was learning watercoloring. She was a beginner, and she was like super obsessed bringing the art in the right way. Like, super obsessed about the stroke of the color and trying to make that right. She took a very long time to complete it. Since she was a beginner, the process felt very very painful. And it was very painful because she took a lot of conscious step to make it complete, and to be a perfect one. And after finishing the painting of the feather, after she saw the painting, she felt like very happy. It was the same thing what she thought of. And she started comparing that same process of painting a feather to the process of a mother bringing a child to this world. Thus, when comparing, she thought of writing this poem Carpe Diem. And after, like, so this is the poem she wrote experiencing while painting. And the comparison, as I said, during the painting, um, she feels that the painting was a very hardest job for her because she was a beginner that time. Now she's not, I don't know whether she's feeling that hard, but that time she the pain part, she is telling that it is compared to the labor of the mother, and it is also compared to the happiness of seeing the painting and seeing the baby. And thus this poem explains it. Mm, she found this very relatable, the art of painting and the motherhood, and so she started penning it. Um, this is the small summary of the poem. And if you are all wondering what is carpe diem, the word carpe diem is a Roman word which means seize the day. Was actually said by Horace as plug the day, and the concept is utilizing the present moment. And the other part, she also wrote a poem called Carpe Noctem, which is the complete opposite of Carpe Diem. The meaning is seize the night. And I have also attached her other poems, The Revolution, and The Hardest of the Hurdles, and The Hue of Redemption. Uh, so Julia Jasmine Evelyn is my friend, and I hope she'll become a recognized writer one day. And her works will also soon be published and will be locked in the hearts of the readers. And I thank Sir for giving me this opportunity to speak about
Thank
her.
you, Agnes
Thank you,
Sosi,
sir.
for giving us a wonderful poet, Julia Jasmine Evelyn, and the way she's been inspired, and you've also interacted. You've done your homework well. So happy for you. The way you've interacted with her, spoken to her about her, asked her about her inspiration, her family, etc. Meticulously, you've done it very good. And how especially the painting part, that's stirred a chord in us. Very good, right? Many a flower, I'm just reading out Thomas Gray's quote there. Full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bare. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. So here we are celebrating these beautiful voices, unheard melodies, and let the celebration continue in the next class. So happy for all 4 of you presented today. Then the remaining 2 will be presenting the next class. Wishing you all happy Puja holidays. Thank you. Meet you next week. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
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 Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.